Folks, are we winning? How is the 3-day special military operation that isn't a war going? So, I thought they would just be in there for a hot second. I guess Ukraine's in here to stay for a little while, having a wacky time. You know, I have to say, Russia's not doing as good of a job defending Kursk as they did the first time. The first time, the body count, what was it, in the 6 digits? This time it looks like they're rolling over. Russia declares a federal level emergency in the Kursk region following a large-scale incursion from Ukraine and sent reinforcements there on Friday, 4 days after hundreds of Ukrainian troops poured across the border in what appears to be Kyiv's biggest attack on Russian soil since the war began. Nice! Yeah, let's take a look at the UA map. Having fun over there, huh? It seems so. All right, where are we at? Which of these dots? Pardon me for my, my poor geography right now. I cannot identify at a glance the Kursk region. Oh, I think I identified at a glance the Kursk region. It's the part with all the blue in it for some reason. There we go. Ah, you love to see it, folks. God damn. Ukraine is the first country to march troops into a nuclear-armed country. Those Ukrainians, very brave, you know? Showing us what Eastern Europeans are capable of. That's what I'd like to... Some of you people in chat, you just get down on it. Oh, I am from Greece. I am upset at your characterization. Well, why don't you go march troops into Kursk? Maybe that would change my opinion. Striking the aviation ammunition depot at the Lipatsk 2 airfield resulted in destruction. I don't think this is in Kursk, is it? Well, either way, you know, we love our destroyed airfields. It takes ages to repair an airfield. You know why? Your plane can't take off unless you've got a clean, smooth runway. You gotta repave everything. You've got to wait for it to dry. I mean, it takes a while to get the equipment set up there. You need the resources. It takes a while. God damn. Vaporizing Russian convoys. No ki- Oh. Yeah. Drone footage of the Ukrainian HIMARS strike that destroyed a Russian convoy, causing dozens of casualties last night in Rilsk, Kursk Oblast. Yeah, that looks... Damn. That looks like... That looked about as clean as you would get from, like one of those Call of Duty between mission, easy peasy, have some fun with it, here's the tech to show off kind of missions. You know what I mean? Normally, you don't get something that looks quite that clean cut. Jesus Christ, that looks like a visual effect, you know? Good Lord. Jesus. How much counteroffensive do you think is justified by Ukraine? I say we let them take Moscow. You know? I mean, let's not be spoil sports about this. Russia can keep Siberia. Ukrainian armed forces control the Sutsa gas metering station in Russia. Nearly 50% of all Russian gas exports to the EU flow through this station. It's the only operational Russian gas pipeline supplying the European market. How much natural gas goes to the EU these days? I mean, how, like, at this point, there have been cutbacks, right? I mean, how much is actually going through? I don't actually know. Yeah, much less than before, but probably still a decent amount, I imagine. Hungary gets the bulk of it. Shut it down. Shut it down immediately. Hungary benefits from it. Shut it down. Destroy it. I don't understand why you want to hurt Russia so badly. Forest Shade, are you stupid? Googling what has Russia done the past 3 years. What do you expect to happen if they were to, quote, take Moscow? Don't be an idiot. They're not taking Moscow. Russia needs to feel a little bit of pressure on its borders. They need to sweat it out a little bit. Otherwise, when is this war going to end? Every dipshit grifter in the West, everybody who believes we live in a multipolar era, even though China's economy is stalling, they're going through a housing market crisis that might legitimately stall out the entire country, and they're going through like an aging population crisis. Russia is nothing now. There is no multipolarity. We are the pole. There's one pole on this world, okay? And it's me, Ian Koczynski. And I'm here to tell you, as the one pole, multipolarity is fake. But every grifter here in the West, they're out here telling you, like, why don't we push for peace with Moscow and Ukraine? Well, I ask you, what do you think is going to happen if they just stop the fighting right now? That's right, Russia's just going to do it all over again. They're just going to do what they did the last 50 times, which is ignore the tenets of the peace agreement. Like, What downside would there be for Russia to do that? Like, what incentive is there for them to abide by those agreements? We know they break every deal they can. They do not give a shit, and they're already geopolitical enemies with the West. Like, what would the consequences be? I ask you. It'd be like there are none. And it's not a coincidence, by the way, that basically every single peace deal that Russia posits, that every peace deal that Russia agrees to, for one, they lose no territory. And for two, Ukraine has to disarm and like divest from the West, you know, like hey, we're willing to stop the fighting, but we don't lose anything. You do lose stuff, and the stuff you lose is specifically like your ability to defend yourself in the future. You know, that's what you're losing, Ukraine. Like, come on, let's be real here. The only way this war is actually ending, actually ending, is if Russia can't do it anymore. What is the online left's obsession with multipolarity? American diabolism. They're only like they're incapable of geopolitical analysis beyond America bad, so they think that any other nation developing, you know, the chops to fight or defend themselves, even if the fighting is being done for explicitly fascistic blood and soil type reasons, like it's part of multipolarity, you know. It's all the plot. Do you think multipolarity is a good idea, though? Militarily? No! When has that ever worked? Hey, you know what would be great? Multiple gigantic military empires fighting over territory through proxies. Was the Cold War... The Cold War was the closest we've ever gotten to multipolarity in the modern era. Was that an era of peace? Oh, I remember back when there were not just one, but two superpowers fighting over the world, and then everything was fine. God, no! What I want is economic multipolarity. Economic multipolarity. I want big, heavily intertwined trading blocks to form mutual reliances, so that warfare between those blocks would be ruinous to everyone. This is the reason why we're currently like we're seeing Russia engage in this war with Ukraine, but not China with Taiwan, at least not yet, because China's economy is deeply intertwined with ours. War with China would be globally ruinous, but Russia has been so broken and weakened and so reliant exclusively on like fossil fuel exports for its economy, which are a lot more resistant to this kind of mutual intertwining. They don't lose as much when they go to war, which is why they've been able to hold themselves together for a while in spite of the incredible poverty of the nation, you know, through all the sanctions. Isn't that why protectionism has dangerous implications? Yes, I am a firm denier of protectionism in developed nations. If you're developing and trying to protect your own industries from foreign competition, sure, fine, that's good. I'm cool with that. People are saying they're the same, economic and military, and people say the moon landing was faked. What are you going to do? Listen to everyone and everything they say? Come on. Look at the UK, perfect example of what economic protectionism does to a developed country. Yep. The military is created and funded with money, so yes, they're closely connected. Everything's funded with money. So what, the economy is everything? Economy and erectile dysfunction are the same because you buy Viagra with dollar bills? Shut up. Jesus. No. Economic multipolarity can be done in a friendly sense. Economically, we trade and engage with Mexico, Canada, China, the European Union. We do this with lots of countries. We have robust trade relations with most countries on Earth. Very robust, to the point where it wouldn't be beneficial to us to go to war with them just because the instability would cut out the market. That wasn't the case with Russia. We didn't have that economic entanglement. Or entanglement, you know? Sorry, I don't mean to snap. It's just this misconception bothers me a lot when people think like the fate of big nations is to fight. It's not true. If that's the case, why haven't we gone to war with China? Why haven't we gone to war with the European Union? You know, well, the European Union's interests and ours are aligned. So are China's! Economically, America and China have been buddy-buddy for a long time. Obviously, both of our nations' leaders, like, pretend, you know, we banter back and forth. There's competition. Sure, sometimes there's agitation. But for the most part, we're so connected, it's to our benefit. Mutual stability is to our benefit. You think China wants America to collapse? Do you have any idea how much USD China's holding? Do you have any idea how much debt we owe China in USD? The collapse of the dollar would destroy China. It would be ruinous for them. $10? At least $10. It's another one of the reasons. This is another thing that people get wrong all the time. They say, oh, America owes too much debt to other nations. Okay. If they hold our debt, they're invested in our economic well-being. What's that saying, you know? If you owe someone $10, that's your problem. If you owe someone $20 trillion, that's their problem. You know? Now all you know, you owe them $10, that's one thing. You owe them 20 trillion. Now they're very invested in making sure you don't go bankrupt. What happens if you go bankrupt? They don't get their 20 trillion. People just have no idea how macroeconomics works, Vosh. They confuse it with their own personal finances. Yeah, it's the same like I manage the government budget the same way I manage my family budget bullshit, where people engage in this like anti-intellectual, oh, well, you know, debt is bad on a family level, so at a nation level, it's also bad. Bullshit. That's fine on a national level. You just have to make sure that the debt that you accrue does not exceed the point where you can sort of assuage the confidence of the lenders. If you end up racking up so much debt that people start to doubt your ability to like parse it later, that's an issue. But thankfully, this is the strongest economy of any nation in the history of the world. So we're doing okay. We can leverage that debt. That debt is important. It allows us to make deals. China wants us to be economically healthy because if we aren't, our money isn't worth shit in the debt that they hold. Yeah, like the debt clock stuff. Total bullshit. Isn't China economically stable because of its giant foreign reserves? That's a huge part of it. And that's one of the reasons why they don't want war with us. Those foreign reserves aren't worth jack shit if we collapse. I'm not kidding, US debt is special because of dollarization. Yeah, it does help that the dollar is literally the global reserve currency. Well, Godspeed to Ukraine. By the way, Ukraine is now 25 kilometers removed from the Kursk nuclear power plant, aka in range of tube artillery. I think they should pay Russia back for Chernobyl. What do you guys think? I think that's like the way forward. I think that's a sane and sensible direction to take this whole dynamic, you know? Nah, obviously not. They have to be careful with that. No, I'm not cool with that. I'm not either. It was a joke. I don't think Ukraine should spitefully blow up nuclear power plants. Though it is worth noting that even if a nuclear power plant does get blown up, that doesn't mean that it, like, goes off in a nuke. That's another thing people think that's not true. Just a dirty bomb? There's no bomb. Nothing blows up. You just get a bunch of irradiated material. They should use the gay bomb from America. On Russia? What effect would that have? I mean, my hope would be that past a point... So... I don't think that Putin is necessarily a rational actor. So Russia is an oligarchy. The needs and well-being of the people are largely irrelevant. They are, you know, their media is state-controlled. There's a heavy level of control from the Kremlin, right? We're not talking about, like, them being beholden necessarily to the people, right? It's all kind of a farce. So within that, like, purview, you know, communism? No, that is not communism. The only people whose opinions really matter then are the oligarchs and military leaders, of course, you know, people with that kind of power. Now, I genuinely think that what Putin has done with Ukraine was a largely prideful decision. He's been chosen by the oligarchs as the guy to lead Russia because he's the one who kind of has like the mandate of the masses, insofar as that's something they're capable of wielding, right? Popularity matters until it doesn't. And I think that what he's done here is prideful to a ruinous point. And I think that since the war began, and probably increasingly with time, there are plenty of other leaders and oligarchs who are getting sick of Putin's sort of like, regardless of whether or not Putin himself is up or whether it's his military leaders or whatever, this is messing up business, right? It is difficult to conduct business in Russia right now. And I think that a lot of the oligarchs are willing to take that on trust, like, okay, this will resolve itself eventually and then things will go back to normal. But eventually that's not the case. They need stability to make the money, right? Or at least they need open markets, and the sanctions are ruinous for the oligarchs who have their worth tied up in, you know, in Russian industry, business, and what have you. So it's a problem for them. My hope is that given enough time, Putin is either pressured into stopping this, like properly stopping, not just doing like a fake peace deal, or he gets replaced. Could be either or. Who knows? That's my hope. A coup? I mean, Prigozhin bitched out, but sure. I mean, whatever. Who knows how it's going to go down? That's my hope. I don't think that we ever see peace as long as Putin is still in power doing what he is doing, A coup doesn't necessarily mean what will replace him will be better. Yeah, but what motivation would there be in this war having gone on for like 3 years? What would the motivation be to have a coup, which would mean like assuaging all of the oligarchs? You would have to do a bunch of behind the scenes coordinating. You'd have to make promises that you would do a better job than Putin. Then you do a coup, and it's like, I'm going to do the same thing but worse. Like, how does that fit? Like, I don't think the oligarchs are looking for someone to ramp this up into global nuclear war. I don't think the interest there is on that. That's the opposite of stability. My guess is that if anyone replaced Putin, they would be more conciliatory. If there was a coup, they would probably stop the war, but that doesn't mean democracy for Russia. There's not going to be democracy for Russia. Russia doesn't have a democratic civil society. They never have. That nation has literally never developed like a popular interest in democracy. I know that sounds kind of essentialist, but it's a cultural thing, and culturally, Russia has literally never had it. Same with China. Same with China. You need there like the forces that normalize democratic consideration within a country that make the people want to be in a democracy. That's not just an innate property of human beings. We don't default to that. It's the product of material circumstances, and the material circumstances just, man, Russians have gotten over time and time again when it comes to that. There have been so many false promises, like over and over and over again. Lenin, of course, betrayed the revolution. Stalin was a mega tyrant. Even with glasnost and all of the so-called democratization towards the end of the Soviet Union, it didn't really pan out. Soviet Union falls, conditions collapse for Russians, things get worse. It looks like you might have a democracy for a bit, but no one really believes in it. Boris Yeltsin, kablamo, little state coup, Putin shows up, hello, and then democracy's done. They just don't. And what about Germany? Germany's had a democracy for, depending on which half of it you're in, either 80 years or like 35. China had hope for a time. Well, they might have hope in the future. But yeah, at the moment, I don't think that Russia really has a civil society keyed in to the good of democracy, unfortunately. Exactly, Lowengram. Yeah, Germany has culturally valued democratic ideals and liberalism for a while back. The Nazis were not. I'm not saying they're the exception to the rule, because that's not the case. That's not how history or politics works. But the Nazis were like an especially anomalous bump. Uh, considering the circumstances. What's that quote from November, Caldwell Kelly? It's like, if you had gone back in time and you told somebody that there were two European nations, one of which was going to be the birthplace of Nazism and the other of which was going to be the birthplace of like the global communist movement, and you told them it was going to be Germany and Russia in that order, they wouldn't believe you. They would think the order was switched. That was Richard Evans. Okay, then she was paraphrasing him, but I'll take the quote either way. I feel like a chunk of the Russian oligarchs are just ideological Duganites who want this war until Ukraine is subdued so a new leader would continue it. Maybe some of them are, but at the end of the day, I really think they answer to their checkbooks. I think that all wealthy people at the end of the day, no matter how ideologically consistent they may seem, are slaves to what makes them money. Look at Musk. Elon Musk could be funneling billions into Trump right now. But he backed off a mere 180 million purely because it would have been slightly economically disadvantageous for him to do so. And Elon Musk is a very aggressively loud Nazi. He's out there retweeting Nazis all the time. So is Marx the exception? I don't know the exception to what? What is he an exception to? To Russian thought? I don't know what you mean. Marx wasn't Russian. I would not be so doomer about Russian civil society. I'm not trying to be doomer. I'm not saying that like the Russian mind is literally incapable of comprehending democracy. I'm not making any essentialist claims about the nature. Like, most countries in the world, like most, I mean, are varyingly democratic at the best of times. If you went into like, I don't know, the Central African Republic right now and talked earnestly with people, do you think the average person there has like a strong tendency towards democratic rule? Those people live in pretty poor conditions. They're probably hoping everyone wants their own strongman to fix things. That's the default, like that's the I don't know. That's like the human political thought. That's like the first thing you default to. If things are bad, we want like a cool, strong guy to fix it. That's like the standard thought. There's a reason why democracy didn't even get normalized until like 200 years ago. And even then, varyingly, you know? It's just not the norm. For the most part, the easy thought is like, yeah, I things are bad, so I want them to be better because a strong person fixes it, you know? That's like kind of the default. And until a very specific set of circumstances are introduced, you know, that kind of continues. Yeah, essentially save me, daddy. Yeah.